want to try a wee experiment. For just the next few minutes, I want you to put your opinion of Andrew Tate to one side. Not because your opinion doesn't matter, it does, but because that's not actually what this video is about. It's not about convincing you that Andrew Tate is a good person, and it's not about convincing you that he's a bad person. It's about something that fascinates me far more than either of those questions. And that is, how is it possible that millions of people can look at exactly the same person, hear many of the same interviews, read many of the same headlines, watch many of the same videos, but arrive at completely different conclusions? Some people see a successful businessman who tells young men to take responsibility for their lives. Others see somebody whose influence they believe is deeply harmful. Some think the legal cases speak for themselves. Others argue that allegations and investigations should never be confused with proof of guilt. They're looking at many of the same publicly available facts, so how did they get to such different destinations? And that's the question that I'd like to explore. One thing I've noticed is that we often use these three things as though they're interchangeable: facts, interpretations, and conclusions. But they're completely different. Well, let's imagine I say this. Andrew Tate has, let me say his name properly. Andrew Tate has millions of followers online. Now, that's a fact. But watch what happens next. Somebody says, and that proves he's helping people. Another person says, and that proves he's dangerous. Now, neither of those following statements is a fact. They're interpretations. The conclusion comes after the interpretation. But when we argue online, we often skip over the interpretation entirely. We jump straight from fact to certainty. And once we've done that, anyone that disagrees isn't simply wrong. They're seen as evil or stupid. But are they? Or have they simply interpreted the same information differently? Now, before anyone jumps into the comment section, and I know you want to, but hold on, at least wait to the end of the video, right? And then I'll engage with your comments. And before you do that, it's important, I think, that you maybe hear what I've got to say next, because I'm not saying that every interpretation is equally valid, right? Some interpretations are much better supported by evidence than others. Some conclusions simply don't follow from the facts. Critical thinking still matters. But what interests me, it's not deciding who's right or who's wrong. It's understanding the journey of how did they get there. Because if we don't understand how conclusions are formed, we'll never understand why intelligent people disagree. Right, let's use Andrew and Tristan Tate as an example. Over the past few years, Andrew and Tristan Tate have become two of the most divisive figures on the internet. Supporters point to their success, their confidence, their business achievements, their willingness to say things that many public figures wouldn't dare say. Critics point to controversial statements they've made, their influence on young men, and their various legal investigations and proceedings involving them. Now, the brothers themselves deny any wrongdoing, and they are entitled to the presumption of innocence unless and until proven guilty in court. Those are broadly the facts that most people are aware of, but somehow those same facts produce completely different beliefs. Why? Imagine two people reading exactly the same news report. They both read that there have been multiple investigations. They've both read the same words, but what happens next is different, because one person thinks, why would there be so many investigations if there wasn't something serious behind them? And the other person thinks, investigations aren't convictions. People are investigated all the time, but our justice, our justice system is supposed to decide guilt in court, not in the headlines. Now, neither person has disputed the fact that investigations have taken place. The disagreement begins a step later. They've interpreted that same fact differently. And once that happens, it's hardly surprising that they reach different conclusions. Here's something I think we often forget these days. Human beings don't process information like computers. Every new piece of information passes through filters. Our previous experiences, our trust in institutions, our trust in journalists, our trust in influencers, if I'm one of those, our political views, our personal values, our own experiences of fairness and injustice. So by the time a fact reaches our conscious mind, it's already passed through all of those filters. And everyone has different filters based on all of those things. So maybe that's why two intelligent people can look at the same evidence and genuinely disagree. It's not because one's lying or one is stupid. It's because they're looking through different lenses. The final conclusion has come because it's been filtered using different filters. This is where I'd like to leave Andrew Tate for a moment, because I don't think this is actually about him. Tomorrow there's going to be another news story. There will be another controversial person, another public disagreement, and we'll do the exact same thing all over again. We'll argue over conclusions. Well, maybe the more interesting conversation is this. If we all had access to roughly the same facts, what happened inside our minds that caused us to arrive at different conclusions? I'd really like to hear your answer. Not whether you support Andrew Tate and not whether you oppose Andrew Tate. I'm asking something different. At what point did you reach your conclusion? Was it after hearing an interview, or after reading a headline, or after watching a documentary, or after watching millions or thousands of his TikTok videos or YouTube videos or wherever he posts? Or was it after following the legal developments? Or did your conclusion begin somewhere else completely? Because I've got a suspicion. Understanding how we think might be even more important than arguing about what we think.